Welcome to the Program Design Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Monique, teacher and curriculum writer turned program mentor and business strategist for coaches, educators, and online experts. Whether you're looking to create your first ever group coaching program or scale your current offer for more freedom, revenue, and consistent income, this is the podcast for you. Here you'll find practical strategies and encouragement mixed with a bit of manifestation and intuition to help you grow and design a program you absolutely love. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Program Design Podcast. I'm thrilled to get into an episode with you because if you've been following for a little while, you know that I joined a mastermind. I joined it a few months ago, but it was officially started at the beginning of May. So I've been in it at the time of recording for about 6 weeks now. And I wanted to share some of the shifts and lessons that I've been learning so far. And I wanted to do this episode as a follow-up to an episode I did a little while ago, which was on the money block that I didn't realize I had when I invested in this mastermind. That is absolutely the biggest investment I have made in my business thus far and in terms of coaching. And so I wanted to share today my top lesson from this mastermind that I think will really benefit you as well. And I'm also going to dive into some of the conversations that I've noticed that we're not having and what we're talking about instead. I always join programs to be in rooms with people who are beyond where I am, to stretch my way of thinking, way of being, because when you're in rooms with people who are doing bigger things or further along than you, that can help you push your thinking, the way you're moving, the way you're acting in your business, and can help you grow to that next place. So I've always done that. And this is my latest investment to do that. And I wanted to share that with you because I think some of the conversations that we have or that we're not having in this room will be especially helpful because there are people at my level in the room who are at, 6-figure businesses, but there are also people who are at 7 figures. And I think it's really fascinating to hear what people are talking about at different stages and levels in business so you can start to adapt and adopt those ways of being and ways of thinking as well. So we're going to be diving into that in this week's episode. If you have not yet subscribed to the podcast, would love to have you subscribe to the podcast. You can hit subscribe on your podcast of choice, Spotify or Apple Podcasts if you're an iPhone user like me. And we are going to dive into this week's episode. So let's get started. So at the time of recording, it is mid-July. And so I am batching a bunch of episodes because we are leaving to Europe for a whole month in 1 week coming up. So this is my time to batch a bunch of podcasts. My kids are at my mother-in-law's with a bunch of cousins this evening. It's Friday afternoon, and I'm really happy that I have this uninterrupted time to get a bunch of podcasts in. So let's dive into some of the takeaways that I've had with my mastermind. So the first thing I wanted to share with you is some of the conversations I've noticed that folks are not having. So at this point in business, I've been in business for 8 years. I've been in a lot of different programs, and I've noticed that there is either an absence of certain conversations that I've heard in other rooms, or there's a different way of talking about them. And I want to share this with you because what I know to be true is it's not about the challenge that you're dealing with in business. It's what you are making it mean. So there's always going to be problems in business. I think there was a time when I started business that I thought, once I'm making a certain amount of money, like I remember when I first started my business, I wanted to be making $500 extra a month. I just wanted like a side hustle that made me a little bit of extra money on the side. And then I wanted to hit 5K and 10K and 20K. Like my goals continued to get bigger. But I remember when I first started, when I was maybe around the 3-4K mark, that I thought that once I was making money consistently, not that I would have made it, but I would have had challenges, but really the biggest hurdle was to make sure that I was making money consistently. And then once I had done that, I'd be in business, right? I don't know if that makes sense to you at all, but that's kind of how I thought about it. And what I know now is that every new level in your business just brings on different challenges. So we can get stuck at figuring out our niche or figuring out our offer or finding a way to sell our offer. But really every new phase in your business requires different skills, requires a different way of thinking. So the same way you approach how you're going to figure out your niche, how you're going to figure out what your offer is, how you're going to figure out what you're selling it is, will dictate, I guess, how how you face the problem of scaling your offers or hiring more people in your team or different challenges that will come on later on in business. And so for me, what I've really noticed is that what makes the difference is not the absence of problems. It is how we interpret those problems and what we make it mean for ourselves. And I want to share what I've noticed from a lot of these 7-figure business owners in the rooms and how they think about the problems they are experiencing. So multi-6 and 7-figure business owners. And the first one that I noticed is there's no one is saying, what if this doesn't work? No one's saying this isn't working. What if this doesn't work? Like, that is not a phrase that I've been hearing from other members in the mastermind. And that is something that I hear often in other programs or from other entrepreneurs who are maybe earlier on in business. And the reason I want to highlight this for you is because it's not that things are always perfect and working exceedingly well. It's more that it's not performing without any kind of drama. So I even have a note. I was looking back on my notes and I was struck by a doctor in the room. She owns a brick and mortar clinic and she does a coaching program. And she said she was sharing about something, a new problem that she was working through. And she said, I think it was probably about her funnel, something like that. And she said, it's not performing yet. And she didn't say, what if it doesn't work? What this isn't working? She said, it's not performing yet. So that means she knows it will perform and she will make it get to the place where it will perform. And also she's not making it mean that this challenge she's going through in her business, that there's something wrong with her, that she's not good enough, that she's not cut out for this, that what if this fails? Like, she doesn't have all these fears and stories. She's just saying, oh, this isn't performing. Like, it's this thing outside of her. And she's going to work on her system, on the strategy until it performs. So she's not making it mean that's this catastrophic, stressful thing. It's just not performing. It's just a data point, and she is going to address it. So I'd love for you to think about when you think about your business, and if you have a problem, maybe a landing page isn't converting, maybe you tried to sell your program and no one bought, or you have people who, purchased your program, but they're not showing up to calls or something like that, whatever the problem is that you're facing. What are you making it mean? Are you making it mean like you're a failure? This isn't going to work out. What were you even thinking? What if it doesn't work? Or are you thinking, oh, it's not performing the way I thought. I'm going to shift some things, and it means nothing about you. So that's the first conversation I noticed that is not happening. There's no mention of what if this doesn't work? It's not working. It's not performing. The next conversation I've noticed that's not happening in the room is, what should my next offer be? Now, sometimes people do change their offers or add a new offer to their offer suite. But what I've really noticed for everyone, and I think there's probably about 35 women in the mastermind, everyone has one signature offer, one signature program that is the foundation of their business. Now, they may have other offers as well. Some of them have brick and mortar and coaching programs. Like I was saying, some of them offer retreats. Some of them have 2 levels in their programs, but they all consistently across the board have one main program. And as far as I can see, all of their programs are evergreen. That means that their programs, while they may have start and stop, like they might have specific times where people can register, they are a consistent program that they can sell. And so they're not thinking, maybe I should try this, maybe I should try that, maybe I should try this. They're beyond that phase. And they're thinking about not what should my next offer will be. They know what their offer is and they're optimizing, they're growing that offer. And so my takeaway here for you is, do you have that one core signature offer that's the foundation of your business? Or are you always creating new things, which keeps you stuck in first gear? You're always creating, rather than taking what's already working and growing it. And if you're not at that place, that's okay. I mean, that's what I do, right? Is I help you create that signature program that you could grow. Maybe that's something that you're ready for, that like, okay, I want to have that foundation in my business for consistency, for growth, that this is the thing that I am consistently delivering, consistently selling. Maybe that's what's missing for you, is that one signature program, that one signature offer. The last conversation that I'm not hearing, which is interesting, is there are still concerns around cash flow or around learning curves around using ads for the first time. I've been using ads for a number of years now, but some people have used other strategies and are trying ads for the first time, funnels, things like that. But similar to what I was saying earlier about seeing things as not working versus not performing, what the overall kind of conversation that I'm hearing is, even though we're talking about these things, it's a place of challenge. It's not a problem. So they're not making it mean like, oh my gosh, there's all these moving pieces and how am I going to manage this and how am I going to figure this out? Or there's no like, oh my gosh, cash flow. Like there's less drama really. So they know that they have problems and everyone has problems in their business, but it comes from a place of like, oh, how am I going to address this challenge? Rather than seeing it as a problem that we need to all stress out about. So that's what I'm hearing. That's like the conversations I'm not hearing is no one saying, what if this doesn't work? It's not working. They're saying it's not performing yet. A different outlook on the same challenge. I'm not hearing what should my next offer be because they already have one that is that consistent signature program that they can sell again and again. And even though they may have some of the same challenges that I hear from my clients or that even I experience, right? We all have challenges in our business. They don't see it as a big problem to fix. They just see it as a challenge, the next challenge to solve, the next puzzle to solve. So let's talk about my top 3 takeaways. I have been in the mastermind for 6 weeks. I might do a follow-up. If you found this helpful, let me know. I might do a follow-up later because I'm going to be in it for at least 6 months. But after 6 weeks, I wanted to share some of the lessons, especially the lessons that I didn't expect from the mastermind. So the first one is more of a tactical strategy, and it is about frequency. And not about, though I do love to get into like, what's your frequency on an energetic level, but I mean frequency around how often you are selling, how often you're selling. So when I first started my business and then subsequent years after, what was really common were people doing big launches like once a quarter or even once a year. What I've been noticing often for people that's working well now is selling more regularly. And I particularly like it as a mom, as a woman in business, because there's more consistency, like regulation to selling regularly. And so before I joined the mastermind, I was running monthly webinars, and my coach suggested I try weekly. So we're not quite at weekly. We do probably 2 to 3 webinars, generally speaking, a month. We're moving up to that. And it took a little while to build out those systems and to have that capacity. But I'm seeing a big impact on moving from monthly to weekly in terms of how fast I can optimize, when I can bring people in. We just move so much faster. So my first takeaway that I didn't think about was frequency of how often you're filling your programs or how often you are making offers to your program. So if you are only inviting people in to work with you, either sporadically, whenever someone gives you a referral, for example, maybe someone comes to you and they refer you, and so you maybe get referrals from here and there. Or maybe you do have your program and you kind of sell it whenever one finishes, you think, oh, I need to sell something else again. And there's no consistency to how frequently you're selling your program and how often you're making offers. One of the simplest ways to make more money is to simply make more offers more often, right? And so that was my first takeaway, is making an offer more frequently. That is the first takeaway. And the second takeaway that I got, and then I'm going to share my absolute top lesson from the mastermind that I've seen. The second takeaway is what I came in thinking is that my unique edge, the thing that makes me different in my industry, is that I have an expertise in program design, curriculum, delivery, education. That's my specialty. That's my expertise. That's what I saw as my unique edge and my unique specialty in the market. And it's super important to know what makes you unique in your industry and in your niche. But my coach challenged me, let's say, on that way of thinking. And she said, your unique edge is not that you do program design. It's that you do both. You do program design, but you also do marketing and sales. It's that you combine both. And most people will either do, a lot of business coaches focus a lot on the marketing and sales, of course. And I do know some people, probably because of the circles that I'm in, who focus especially on maybe program design, on curriculum building, things like that. And she said, your unique edge is that you do both, is that you have expertise in both. Because if you know me, you know that I am absolutely obsessed with business. And thankfully for my friends and husband, I joined Mastermind and have some friends in business that I can go deep on business on, because not everyone wants to talk about it as much as I do. So that is my unique edge. And the reason I wanted to share this with you is sometimes we underestimate what our unique thing is, or we think, oh, well, this is obvious. Everyone can do it because it comes easily to you. So my thought for you, or my question is, where are you underestimating your gifts, your unique strengths, your unique edge? And is there some sort of combination of your background that's maybe kind of a little unorthodox or unusual, that's the combination that actually gives you your unique edge in the market? So I wonder, were you focusing on one thing when actually it's a combination that makes you more unique? So for example, I have a client who is a dietitian, but she's also a musician, and she can combine, and I don't want to give away her IP, so I'm not going to share too much about it, but she's combined those two unique worlds in her offers, and it creates something that's a really unique piece of expertise, right? So that's my question to you is, do you have anything that you're kind of overlooking that could be that unique kind of crossroads, that intersection that makes you stand out in your industry? And my last takeaway, my top lesson from the mastermind that I did not expect, is I wasn't sure what the conversations, like what people would be speaking about, right? I didn't really know until I got in there. And the takeaway that I've got, the thing that really surprised me the most is that the thing that we speak about the most in the mastermind right now is messaging and owning like that unique angle like I was talking about. But what is your messaging? And I think sometimes we think, well, first off, let's just get clear on what I mean by messaging, and then I'll continue on with that thought. Messaging is everything. It's how you communicate really what you do. It's how you speak about your program, how you articulate what you do so that it resonates with your ideal client. Basically, that's how I see messaging. And it's not copywriting. Copywriting is like the surface level of what kinds of words you're using, language, hooks, things like that. But underneath it, like what's the core message of what you do? How are you articulating? What's your voice? Like what's your message, right? And what I think sometimes we think that messaging is something that we need to think about when we first create our programs and we're trying to figure out how to sell them regularly and how to fill our programs. And so we're thinking about like, how do I articulate this? How do I communicate what it is that I do? How do I position this offer in a way that really speaks to my ideal client? But what I've really been struck by is that, yes, messaging for sure when you first start. And I mean, we do talk about that all the time in signature program design, but it's still the main thing that people are talking about as they grow their businesses too. It's always evolving. We're refining it. And messaging is the thing that can take you to and it's a cliche, but the next level in your business. So one thing I've been struck by, even as an example recently, is if you're listening to this podcast, the odds are is that you found me through a Facebook ad. Not always. Someone may have referred you. You may have seen it through a friend, but most of my clients find me through ads, right? And so that's my main lead generation strategy. It's the way I bring people into my world. It is not the only way. There are many other ways, but that's personally the strategy that I'm using in the season that I'm in. And so I've been running ads for a while, but for this particular offer, I've been running ads for about 2 years. And recently I was running the same masterclass. My funnel is the same. I just changed one bit of messaging, and that was on my ad. I changed the ad and the hook and the angle that I used for my messaging, and it made a huge impact on the rest of my sales system. My attendance rate, so from what I've seen recently, the average attendance rate for a webinar right now is 10%, which I was really quite surprised by. It wasn't like that. Like when I started on business, we always talked about a 30% attendance rate. But that number has since changed. I think probably because there are more things competing for our attention. So from what I've heard recently at the recording, a lot of people say 10% is like industry standard. So my show up rate, my attendance rate, so that means the number of people who register versus attend is usually 20%, which is pretty good. I've worked on that. This one ad, now we'll see if it holds, but this one ad changed my attendance rate from 20% to 30%. I got more people who were interested in the program calls, and I had people book calls even from my replay, which honestly does not happen very often. Most of the time, the people who work with me, and which I recommend with my clients too, is like people who work with you are the ones who feel your energy, who connect with you, who actually come to your events live, right? And we'll see if it continues. This is, or like it's new, and I'm trying out these new pieces, like this new messaging, right? But honestly, that's one of the only things that I really shifted in the funnel, and it's made such a big impact. And honestly, at this point, like when I have intakes to signature program design, I have a limited number. And at this point, I'm going to have quite a wait list for our next intake because I have more demand than I have space for. And that is because I shifted one piece, like one little bit of messaging, that one ad that's made a massive impact like everywhere else. And I'm just struck by how much your messaging as you grow your program makes a big difference. So it makes a big difference when you start your program, because really your program dictates your messaging, right? When you know who your program is for and you create your program for a specific person in mind and have that filter, that also dictates how you talk about it, the people you bring in, the messaging for it. But we're still evolving, refining your messaging as you grow your program to bring in more people and more of the right people as you look to go from your warm audience, the people who already know you in your community, to growing your audience. It matters even more because the words you use will dictate who comes into your world. Does that make sense? So that is the biggest takeaway. Is I'm so struck by women at every level who are really talking about, okay, what's the messaging for this? What's the messaging? How am I messaging this? Which really means, how am I articulating this? What's the angle? How am I positioning this? That's like that next level of, I guess, strategy that people are thinking about, because the women in the room, obviously, they know how to run their sales system. They know how to sell. They know all the skills that a lot of the skills are that I'm teaching in signature program design, like how to build your offer, how to speak about your offer, how to sell your offer, how to market your offer, all those things, right? They already know all of those skills. So now like the next level is really like getting that messaging on point. And so that's the thing I've really been struck by at this next level of business. So before we recap, I would love for you to think about, as you listen to these, what's the one thing that you can take away that shifts your thinking? Because when we want to achieve our next goal in business, it really comes from you shift your internal state, the way that you think about things before you see it show up in your reality. You need to change your thoughts and the way you are being first, and then your results will change, right? So if you're listening to this, think about like, what's the one thing that I could shift in the way that I'm thinking to get the next goal that I'm looking for. So we first talked about the 3 conversations I usually hear in programs, but I am not hearing in the mastermind. There is no, what if this doesn't work? Instead, it's not performing. We talked about there's no one asking what's my next offer going to be, because they have their signature offers, and there may still be problems that they're dealing with, but they don't really see them as problems. They see them as challenges that they're moving through, because there's always going to be challenges in business. It's about what you make them mean, right? And the 3 takeaways after my first 6 weeks in the mastermind, first off is frequency, just making more offers more often. It's about knowing your unique edge, and is there a combination of your background, 2 things that you do really well that makes you unique, like mine was not just program design, it's that I know the business world, the marketing, sales, strategy, the mindset, all of the business world that I combine with program design, and that's my unique edge, right? And then the last takeaway that I wasn't expecting was how important and how big messaging is, and how much of an emphasis people are putting on their messaging at that next level. So I hope that this was helpful for you today. I'd love to hear from you if it was. If you are not yet subscribed to the podcast, hit subscribe so you get a new episode each and every week. And I will see you next week on the Program Design Podcast.